Audit planning. Audit planning is the second step in the audit process. This is used to formulate audit strategy which has main objective of determining the scope of audit procedures. Scope was all about the nature, timing, and extent of the audit process. Audit planning discusses 5 concepts which are the understanding the entity, materiality, audit risk, analytical procedures, and lastly, the planning documentation. Understanding the entity. This is about having sufficient knowledge of the company we are going to conduct an audit. This is all about knowing the overall financial aspects or transactions of the company, its cash, liabilities, purchases, and the management functions, especially in an employee's functions per department. This is important to determine the areas with high risk and identifying if the management is working in accordance with their vision, mission, and goals. In this way, auditor would be able to give recommendations that would improve the company's efficiency and effectiveness. The second concept under the audit planning is the materiality. Any misstatements is material if it affects the influence of economic decisions. Also, auditor would rely on his or her professional judgment in identifying the materiality of an error. This undergoes 3 steps. First, we have to determine the overall materiality based on the financial statements level. The second step is to determine the tolerable misstatements in the accounts balance level. And the third step is to compare aggregate amount of misstatements against the overall materiality level. The third concepts under audit planning is the audit risk. Audit risk. This is the risk that an inappropriate audit opinion is issued. There are 2 types of audit opinion. The clean opinion or an unqualified opinion where FS are fairly presented and free from error or fraud but not 100%. Only had reasonable assurance. The second type is the unclean opinion or qualified opinion, which covers the adverse, qualified, and disclaimer opinions of an auditor. Audit risk is equal to inherent risk times control risk times detection risk. Inherent risk is the susceptibility of accounts to material misstatements. Control risk is the risk that an internal control is ineffective. And lastly, the detection risk is the risk that misstatements cannot be detected. The fourth concept under audit planning is the analytical procedures. After undergoing or identifying the materiality and audit risk, then we can go on with making audit procedures. Analytical procedures are performed during the planning, testing, and completion phase. High materiality and high audit risk has more extensive audit procedures. High materiality with low audit risk has less extensive audit procedures. Low materiality with high audit risk has more extensive audit procedures. Thus, it usually based on how high the audit risk and how extensive the audit procedures are. The main purpose or objective of analytical procedure are to understand the company, identify unusual transactions, and after that, to determine additional audit procedures that must be performed. This also has 3 steps, which is first, to develop expectations such as budget analysis. Second is comparing expectations of FS under audit to gather evidences. Lastly is to investigate differences for more needed operations for conducting an efficient audit. The last under the 5 concepts are the planning documentation. This is all about the overall audit strategy which contains the audit plans, and these plans cover audit programs where auditing cash and receivables and etc. It was important to have documentation of all phases of audit process through a narrative or a flowchart style. This is Joyce Alinias, BSA. Thank you and God bless.